ahead in the back. Yeah.
You may have had the chance to see some of the footage shot by our cameraman in the Gaza Strip, widely shared online, showing a group of men waving a white flag, representing no threat whatsoever, unarmed, and moving south to try and reach some relatives. The IDF opened fire, as you can see on that video, and killed one of them, Abu Salul. I wonder what your response to that is, and whether you think from watching that video whether that potentially represents a war crime.
I have seen that footage, but I am not going to comment on the specifics around that, given I'm not aware of the full circumstances on the ground. And as we've said before, this is not an American operation. But beyond that, please don't. I'm happy to take your questions if you'll allow me. To answer. I don't interrupt you, and I ask you to not do the same. As a general matter, though, we have not parsed our words about the moral and strategic imperative that the government of Israel and the Israeli security forces have to take every effort possible to minimize civilian casualties and minimize impact on civilians. As it relates to the footage that your organization has shared, again, I'm just going to refrain from commenting on specific operations, as we do not have full circumstances of what on the ground from here. This isn't an American operation. I'm not on the ground there to speak to the full parameters of the situation. Any civilian death is heartbreaking, and any civilian life lost is one too many. And we have made that clear with the Israelis, and will continue to do so.
Beyond that comment about it being heartbreaking, which is a platitude we often hear, would you urge, given that you broadly support the IDF operations in the Gaza Strip, would you support an Israeli investigation of what happened in that video? Given that they're waving a white flag and they represented no threat.
That is for the IDF to undertake and determine based on the circumstances of that situation. What I will say is that we have been clear to our Israeli partners that they need to take every possible measure to avoid civilian harm during an operation and investigate credible allegations of law or of war violations when they arise. But that is for our Israeli partners in the IDF to speak to.
Just on this, Vedant, you said that we don't have the full facts or something like that in a minute. Like, did you actually reach out specifically to Israel about this footage and try to get whatever the facts that you guys are seeking?
This footage just arrived earlier this morning, so I don't have any specifics of our diplomatic conversations around this to speak to.
How about the footage that arose last week and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before, where there have been, if not similar, awfully close instances? Have you ever gotten an explanation from the Israelis? Have you ever gotten a finding from the Israelis of what their investigation, if they promised one?
I'm not going to speak to private diplomatic conversations, Matt, but this is something that we raise continuously with the Israelis. The secretary has done so, other officials in our government have done so, and will continue to do it.
Okay. Well, have you ever gotten an answer from the Israelis?
I'm not gonna speak to the privacy of certain diplomatic conversations, Matt. But we have been clear that there is a moral and strategic imperative to take as many steps as possible to minimize civilian casualties.
That's fine that you say that. But then when you are asked specific questions like this relating to specific footage. And this is not the first time that this has happened. You've been asked repeatedly about this, and then you come back and say, well, we've raised questions with you, we've asked the Israelis questions. Have you ever gotten a response to any of those?
These conversations
I'm not asking you for the details. I just want to know.
These conversations are private. We have raised with the Israelis specific circumstances, and we have received
gotten answers?
Correct. I'm not going to speak to those conversations right now.
In any case, are you aware of that the Israelis say, we screwed up here?
I'm just not going to speak to the private conversations, Matt.
And on this one, just to close this, since it sounds like you haven't had a chance to ask about this one, are you planning to ask about this particular instance or no?
I'm just not going to speak to specific diplomatic conversations. What I will just reiterate, Humaira, is that we talk to our Israeli counterparts all the time, regularly, from various interlocutors across our government, and will continue to do so. And front and center part of those engagements will continue to be the moral and strategic imperative that our Israeli partners have to minimize the impact on civilians. Leon.